You're listening to Intentionally Catholic, a podcast about living our Catholic faith with joy and intention.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Father Ron Hutchinson.
Now, Father, we're at the beginning of Lent, and there's no shortage, really, of resources out there to help people make the most of this season. So instead of adding to that pile, I kind of want to do something maybe a little bit different.
Okay.
This year, for a lot of people, I'm assuming, with all the people out there in the world, there's a lot of people who are going to have a different kind of Lent this year. It's going to look different. Maybe they're a new parent, running on little sleep with a completely upended routine. Maybe somebody out there listening's going through a season of grief or suffering. Maybe work stress is higher than ever. Whatever is going on. Lent isn't one size fits all. So how do you embrace the season when your circumstances make it harder to follow the traditional path? And I guess what I'll do is I'll just throw a few of these at you.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about, this situation. So first off, I kind of led with it already, but new parents, basically anybody with a new baby in the house. Sleep's scarce. I remember what those days were like. Emotions are all over the place. Daily life, it feels anything but structured. How can people in that boat, in that situation, adapt and enter into Lent meaningfully, even though they've got this challenging personal season going on?
Well, I definitely think that would not be the year to try to do everything you've ever, thought of. It would not be the year to, start Exodus 90 or, it would probably not be the year to say I'm just going to really go gangbusters here for Lent. But I think what you sort of need to do is figure out what is a mini sacrifice that you could make. What is a mini prayer opportunity? What is a mini fasting opportunity? What is a mini almsgiving? What are one of those? Choose one. Don't do all three. Choose one and make it really mini. So I'm saying a short, simple prayer you say every day, or a short sacrifice that you make. Something that you really like, but you could kind of sacrifice. Maybe I would think a food or some behavior that you're engaged in on a regular basis. Do you make a mini sacrifice? And when I'm talking mini, it's it's not going to be a big thing. It's going to be a small thing. You're just going to say, okay, this prayer is takes me 2 minutes to do, and I'm going to put it on my mirror and I'm going to pray it as I'm, standing there getting ready to weep because I haven't been able to sleep in, 3 days or whatever. So I just think small, I guess is what I want to say. Think small, something small and manageable, very manageable. Not even yes, I can do that. No, I want really super manageable.
Because 40 days is a long time.
It is a long time. And even for the best of us, we struggle for 40, to do something or to do all the things we planned for 40 days. It never fails that, I'll say, I'm going to do X. And then, I get bombarded that thing becomes the hardest thing I've ever done. I have more of a social calendar than I've ever had. Or, I say, I'm going to, only, I'm not going to drink any alcohol during all of Lent, and then, I'm at constant social engagements where people are like, oh, come on, Father, have a bourbon, So, yeah, granted, yes, I could say no, but, when you're constantly being bombarded with that, you start to feel okay, is this a test, to see if I can survive, So, yeah.
and that can wear you down. You're already, the new parents, the, new baby in the house, you're already worn down. So, yeah. I can see that the idea could pop into my head that what I'm doing, this mini, whatever it is, this mini prayer, that it's not big enough. It's not important enough. You're saying put that out of your mind.
Yeah. I get rid of that notion of I'm not doing enough. There are seasons in our lives when we have to go for what is possible, what is truly possible, not what, we would like to make probable, So I think that sometimes we think that bigger is better. And in this case, I think just the consistency of doing something every day is going to have an effect, even if it's small.
Right. I guess what comes to mind is the woman putting the two coins
Hmm.
into she didn't have
She gave
much.
everything she had,
Everything she
so
had. Sometimes that 2 minutes, that can
yeah,
be
that could
all
be
we got.
everything you have, so, and I'm talking about like, find a prayer that really speaks to your heart, like, yeah, and today this is what's so easy. You can Google like a prayer for a tired parent, a
Hmm.
prayer for someone who just feels like everything's going wrong for them. Trust me, it's that easy. You can Google almost anything today, so I think that's the approach, even
Well,
if it's something as simple as the serenity prayer. Lord, help me to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That said slowly and with a heart that really is desiring that is a great prayer.
well, and think about that. It seems like it's nothing. It takes you just less than a minute to go through it. But if you did that for 40 days, did it, thoughtfully, applied that to your life. If that change happened in our lives because of that little bit of time that we spent, and we literally could do those things and kind of trained ourselves to do that, and God worked in us and brought that about, that'd be an incredible change in
Well, I
our
think the other
lives.
thing that starts to happen in something like that is it begins the idea that you're saying to God, this is how I want to live. And
Hmm.
then you start talking to God more frequently than you realize about living that way. So, it's surprising. I think, yeah, even a new parent of a newborn has more time than they think they have, but it feels like you have no time. So, it's just one of those things of, you'll start talking to God if you're spending time with God. Even that little bit every day will trigger more time, more
No,
prayer.
I think that's great. Let's talk about those who are experiencing, grief or suffering. When you're already in pain, adding more sacrifice can feel completely overwhelming, both mentally and physically. What would you say to somebody who's walking that path right
Yeah,
now?
I would say that I don't know that with grief or pain or stress or whatever, that the answer is to do something bodily that's going to kind of make that more torture or add more torture, so to
Hmm.
speak,
Hmm.
or more pain. So I think what quite honestly would happen in that case, I always say to people, remember, it's just as much about adding something into our life as it is taking something away. So why not do, either like scripture in a year or, rosary in a year or something like that, that you could just take some time to just rest with the word of the Lord, rest with the rosary, something that you kind of add into your life that maybe isn't already there. Okay. And that would be, in a sense, the additional approach. I'm going to do this in addition. Or, maybe it could be as simple as sending a card to someone else that's in need each and every day. Just a quick card to say you're being thought of. You know, that's so easy. You can buy a stack of like little note cards and with envelopes, and you could just have a pat little thing you write. Prayed for you today. That kind of thing, and it wouldn't even have to be something that you tell the person who it's from. You just
Sure.
send it out to people that need that. Or, maybe it's every member of your family first, and that but that's only 40 days, 40
Hmm.
people. I mean, if you can't come up with 40 people to send a note to, come on. Or even drop it on their desk as you walk by, if at work, without letting them know it's you. I just
Yeah.
think there's lots of great ways you could, help brighten someone else's day by something that's going to add something into your life. Something
No,
simple.
I like that a lot. The whole thing, adding prayer in, that's something that we don't always think about. I mean,
We always talk about
when I go,
getting rid of something. We're always
yes.
talking about like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that.
Hmm.
And I'm saying, well, why not approach it with, I'm going to add something into my life that isn't here right now. Maybe it's even, and I like the idea of the note thing because it's just so think about how much that brightens someone's day to get a note like that. Whether they do or don't know who it came from, it would be like, whoa, someone prayed for me today. Wow. That's kind of cool. So I just, I think it's kind
of... And it takes your focus off of you, not that your focus is wrongly on you in the midst of suffering and grief. I mean, but it's very natural that that's what we see and focus on. And I know, when we had kids that came early, very early, and I remember with Hannah and her sister Rose, they were in the hospital for 3 months, almost 90 days. And it was really easy in the beginning to feel like, wow, we're behind the 8 ball here. Why is this happening to us? This is a misery that's on us. But as we're there, we get to see other people. It takes your focus off of you, and it helps you realize the broader scope of what's going on. And it really helps us. It helped us to get through our suffering by trying to help other people shoulder theirs. And it happens so naturally. And I think that's what your note thing can do so simply.
That's what I'm trying to say. I think we forget how helpful it is to us to focus on others, how helpful it can be to our pain and our difficulty. And sometimes just something like that, where you're brightening people's day, even if you signed it, I don't care if they sign it or not sign it. That's up to them. But think about how nice it would be to hear from somebody saying, I'm so glad you thought of me. Thank you very much for that. I think you'd be surprised how much that will make you go like, oh, you feel a little bit better about yourself. And that's what we need in this world today. We're too navel gazing. We look at ourselves and we're always focusing on us. And, and it is hard. It is hard because it's a natural tendency. It is a natural tendency.
Now, I think that's a great idea. And honestly, it really could be a great idea in any situation, whether you're suffering or not. I just like the idea of even, we talked, or we've got Lectio Divina in the church where you read over a passage of scripture and you just let God speak to you. I can imagine sitting around, letting God speak to me as to who am I supposed to reach out to, and just watching how that plays out over that month. Because there's going to be people that are going to pop into your head that God brought to your attention. You send them a note and you're going to, who knows that you'll hear back. I would bet over 40 days, if you sent 40 notes off, you'll hear from a couple people with news that note came at just the perfect time for them.
Exactly.
And just seeing how God works through that situation, that's really good. You get an A for that one, Father
Okay,
Ron.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let's move on to another group. Some people, due to age or health, they're not able to participate in all the church events that are happening, or, traditional fasting, but the desire is still there. They want to be a part of this, but they can't for whatever reason. What encouragement would you offer to folks who are finding that to be their new situation this Lent?
Well, I think, one of the things we always do is we think of fasting as always about food. And fasting doesn't have to be about food. It can be about something like we're going to fast from complaining. We're going to fast from judging other people. I would even say if the news causes you to be upset and causes anxiety, fast from watching the news. I just think that we can fast from our favorite television program. So we don't watch The Price is Right for 40 days. That's fine. But at the same time, I think you could also, you can give up something. I think that's easy. You can give up something that would help better you as a person. Okay. But also maybe just that each and every day, pray for your pastor, pray for your priest, pray for a certain individual every day for 40 days. Somebody that has got health issues, or that just adding that one intercessory prayer every single day for that person. That that is an additional. But you could say that it's fasting from being self-absorbed. So there's another way to put it. Okay.
Yeah, I think your note thing would work here too.
The note thing would work as well. Yeah, I think that a note or a card from a homebound person, yeah, that would be really great. Again, I've been praying for you. I prayed for you today. So, yeah, I think, but I do think there is still a great value to fasting, to saying I'm going to give up something. Maybe it's something you really like, or it's something that, you'd see as part of your day every day, but you're going to say during this 40 days, I'm going to give this up. But if we give up something, I always say, then that time or that money needs to go to something good. Can't be just giving it up. Meaning that, like say I'll take my bourbon. Okay, I'm giving up bourbon for all of Lent. I would think that I should figure out probably how much bourbon that would be, how many bottles, if it's one a night, for 40 days or whatever. I don't know.
One bottle a night?
No, one drink a night, not one bottle. Boy, that would be a problem. That's called a problem.
I was going to, suggest some kind of intervention.
I was talking one small dram a night.
Glad I clarified that, though, or had you clarify that, because people would have been wondering.
People would be like,
Father Ron went through 40 bottles
Father Ron has a problem.
So many answers come to me now. I understand. Yeah. All right. So you'd figure out how much
that costs, and then give that money to a charity. So give that money to the poor, give it to the St. Vincent de Paul, give it to, Catholic Charities West Michigan for God's Kitchen, or for St. Gianna's, baby pantry, whatever. But I think that sometimes when because the problem here, I'm thinking of my childhood, when I would give up candy as a kid. Mm-hmm. Then I had a box that every time I got candy from somebody or someplace, I would store it then away for the 40 days. So then I had more candy for Easter because you had this candy from Lent. So I never really gave it up, to be quite honest with you. I just postponed it.
You said as a child you did that. A few years ago, I gave up bourbon for Lent, and the money I saved I put into something else that I really wanted. And I saw it as hey, this is a good way to save money. It was certainly, apparently now in hindsight, not a spiritual endeavor at all.
Yeah, I don't think you really took advantage of all the opportunity you had there. So.
Certainly didn't consume a bottle a night, though.
No, you didn't.
And for clarity, neither did Father Ron. That would be crazy. Oh, no, I like that. I think that's so important because, even with the kids, we talk about, what they're going to give up. They're going to give up YouTube. They're going to give up. Now, I don't know how you monetize or quantify what they're spending with YouTube, but certain things, though, let's find a spiritual counterpart for it.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be monetized. Maybe it's you take that time to say a prayer for somebody, or you take that time to pray for a world issue, or whatever. But you use the time that would have been used for that to do something good.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really good. Last one that I've got is just people in high stress seasons, students, professionals, parents of young kids, not necessarily babies. What about people who are in a high stress season? It's demanding work, overwhelming deadlines.
Yeah,
they're overwhelmed.
Which literally describes most people. Probably all the more reason we need to do something that puts into practice prayer, time for prayer. It doesn't have to be, again, a big prayer. It doesn't have to be hours long. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's come up with a prayer routine that's 5 minutes, okay? 5 to 10 minutes, maybe. I think the other thing is, there's nothing wrong with sitting at your desk and praying if you're at work, or taking a little bit of your lunch hour or something like that. So I think, adapting to, to doing something in that stressful period that is of prayer. Okay. But I think the other thing that you could do is, start looking at, what are my negative habits here that are kind of connected with this stress, and, fast from that for the time period of 40 days. That might be another opportunity. I think the problem is today, the only thing I'm going to say is I get that there's stress, and we all have stress. But I think sometimes we start to just focus on that stress way too much. We become very absorbed with it, and everybody's got stress. So to say like, well, mine is more than yours, I don't know about that. It's not something we can judge, so to speak. But I do think we've got to find. Lent is supposed to be a time to reorient our lives. So how do I even use a life that feels like I don't even have any time to do Lent this year, to say, well, I need to do something for Lent this year that is, maybe it's going to be reading a spiritual book or a saint's writings, or, just I'm trying to think of something that's different and unique that would be like good for you, bring something good into your life. And, hey, 5 to 10 minutes, you can manage 5 to 10 minutes every day. There's just, even if it's in the car, why not listen to, this is a good one. Why not turn on the station with worship and praise music on Sirius XM and only listen to that in the car during Lent. No news, no, standard radio, not your favorite things, so to speak, but that. Or maybe listen to a podcast during Lent, maybe listen to Father Ron and Dan Hansen.
What's his name? Yeah.
Dan Hansen.
That guy.
That guy, so why not listen to them? Not that we have like 40 days worth, I don't think, but you never know.
No.
But, there's lots of other things like that. I have to admit the best thing I ever did in my life was to stop listening to top 40 hit music or what was ever the latest and greatest. And I moved there was a long period where I listened to only praise music in the car. And that was good. I didn't have a problem with that. But I have over the last year and a half switched to listening to only symphony music. In the car, listening to Sirius XM Symphony, classical music. So I find it more relaxing. It's funny how, you'll see me like conducting in the car,
I love that idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just like, you're not singing to it, but
you're still conducting. You're driving with your knees and conducting.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. To me, then what I find that allows me to do, it allows me to think sometimes. Allows me to just be focused on like, God, what do you want to say to me today while this music is playing?
Yeah. No, I love that. I completely get that, because I praise and, music with words that I can understand, that gets me, it sidetracks me still. So I like listening to chant, but I like it to be chant that
you don't know what the words are.
If it's got English, I don't want to know it, because God can speak to me. He can speak to me in anything.
Yeah.
But my brain is more fertile, or at least open to it, when I'm not distracted by anything.
Yeah, what I liked about the praise music, though, I will say, there were days where I would almost say, my gosh, like, why is it like today it feels like the music was chosen for my life today? So there would be times when I'd be like, yeah, that's the message that I needed to hear about God. God is reminding me, like, I got you. Don't worry about things. I've got you. So praise and worship music can work for that standpoint. But I really am, like, I'm hugely into the classical music now. I'd rather listen to a violin concerto than listen to, something, the latest album that I even like.
Yeah. Now, I know the whole stress at work, I'm too busy. One of the best things I did, and I don't keep up on it all the time. I'm not daily consistent at it. I'm trying. But I work in Holland, and just down the road, literally 2 blocks, is St. Francis de Sales. And I'll walk there. And I can, they've got a chapel. I've got a little key so I can get in and I can pray. And I remember, it was probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, huge thing at work going on, just something that I had to do with all the things that I do with the radio and stuff. And I was really nervous about it. Didn't know how I was going to accomplish everything that had to be done that day. So I'm on my way to work early, and then it hits me. I should stop at the chapel and pray. And I literally had an argument on the way with myself or with God or with whoever's putting this thought in my head. I don't have time to stop at the chapel today. I'm here early so I can get just moving with all the things I got to do. I don't have 15 minutes. That would just be counterintuitive. I left early not to sit in the chapel. But it won out that, Dan, think about what you just said. Go sit in the chapel. So I sat in the chapel and I prayed for somehow to accomplish this ridiculous day. And I couldn't believe how that day played out. It was miraculous. I could look back on it. I still remember it, how everything fell into place perfectly. And that has not happened every single time since. But I found that the more stressed I am, I tend to want to make sure I'm stopping at the chapel that day, because that 15 minutes, generally speaking, in practical terms, it clears the way for the day to play out way better than I anticipate that it's going to. So I think the more stressed we are, finding that 10 minutes, whether it's at a chapel or whether it's at our table or at our desk, still taking that time and giving, it's like tithing. That's the idea. We give to God, trusting that he's going to pay back. What's the scripture we just had in Mass, I think last Sunday, packed full and keeping and
overflowing into your, yeah, exactly.
God's not a stingy miser. He's going to pay back what we give in abundance.
Yeah. I think sometimes we forget that we probably, in those stressful days, waste more time than we would, spend praying.
Yeah.
Because we're stressing. Sitting there, absolutely inert at our desk, not knowing where to go from here. And yet, if you build the foundation well for your day, things will seem to work correctly. So the building will stay up better. So.
No, I love that. Any other thoughts, Father Ron, before we call this one good?
I think the most important thing is just do something for Lent. Just do something. Don't let it go by and then get to Easter and say, I wish I had, because then I would feel better about celebrating Easter. Do it. We all need to do practices that challenge us, because if we don't challenge ourselves, we end up being the least version of ourselves.
Perfect. And remember that if you're, like we talked about at the beginning, sometimes challenging yourself is that 2-minute prayer.
Yes.
Stuck to the mirror. Right. All right. That's going to do it. If you have questions or comments, let us know. You can reach us at comments@icatholic.show. For Intentionally Catholic, I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Father Ron Hutchinson. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Intentionally Catholic. If you like what you heard, please consider sharing our show with a friend. If you have comments, questions, or topics you'd like to hear discussed, please email those to comments@icatholic.show. And be sure to tune in next time for another episode.